Okay guys, so I'm trying to put this high output alternator on the Honda Fit, on the Meet. And so I got this from AutoTech, obviously. And I ordered it for 2015 Honda Fit. And when it came, there's a few issues. First issue being the back piece here. This connector and this post was on the back side of the alternator, on this side. With it like that, I couldn't mount the alternator because this was up against the engine block and it was inaccessible, and it just physically wouldn't fit. There was no room for this piece to stick out right there. So that was problem number one. The post and the connector were in the wrong orientation on the case. Problem number two is that so on the engine, the factory alternator sits about 3/8 of an inch further forward than this one does. I don't know if the casting here is just thicker on that one. I haven't really, I'd have to go look at it and see. As a matter of fact, let's do that. So let's go grab the factory alternator. Here she is, Honda Fit. This is the this is 2-aught OFC welding cable I run to the alternator. Little tiny rinky-dink battery, which is the biggest reason we need this alternator. Anyway, here it is. Let's take it back over there. Alright, so the problem with the connector being in the wrong orientation was fixable. I called up AutoTech and I talked to their technician, and he told me if I take these through bolts that go all the way through the case, if I take them out and I rotate the back portion of the case to whatever position I need it, in any one of the 4 positions that the case could possibly be in, and just put the bolts back in, it would be just fine, as long as I didn't separate the case right here and take the 2 halves apart. He said it would twist. So I did that. It wasn't as easy as he made it sound. Like, I had to kind of, like, I took my my ratchet with the rubber handle and I just kind of tapped on this here and tapped on this here a little bit, you know, to try and kind of like knock it loose, because I couldn't get it to twist. And finally it cracked loose, and it didn't come apart, it just cracked loose, and I was able to twist it into the right orientation, and I put the bolts back in. If you do that on an alternator, be sure to tighten the bolts up like you would a car wheel. Use a back and forth pattern, back and forth, over and over again, little bit by little bit. I would say like no more than 1/4 of a turn at a time. If I turned it more than 1/4 of a turn at a time, it would bind it up and the pulley would stop spinning, and so I'd have to back it off a hair. So I was just slowly going back and forth, tightening the nuts up until the case was tight, and so it spins nice and free and doesn't make any noise or rubbing sounds or anything like that. So besides the orientation with the connector, the factory alternator has a lower foot on the back side of the case right here, and this one does not. You see it? So the bolt slides through here, not this bolt, a longer one, through there, and then through a casting on the timing cover or the engine block, and threads into there, right there, and holds the bottom of the alternator. So this one doesn't have that, which is fine because I could just put the bolt through the casting on the engine and thread it into the alternator and it would still hold okay. According to the engineer I spoke to at AutoTech, that's what they thought also. So they were having trouble coming up with a high output alternator for a Honda Fit, so they were cutting corners and making things work. So they didn't use exactly the same case. So this foot is missing, which can be worked around. So that was the second issue, is missing a foot. The first issue was the connector. The third issue is, you see the casting, or you see the case here on this alternator? See how it sticks out here? On this one, it doesn't do that. So this alternator sits further back on the engine, and so the pulley doesn't line up with the rest of the pulleys on the engine. So what I had to do was find some nuts and some washers just to. I found a bolt to use instead of the factory one because the factory one is too long and it's got a big long smooth part on it. So I found just some spacers, nuts and washers, crap I had laying around to space the alternator forward. So that problem was solved. So connector problem solved. The rear foot on the case was solved, and the spacing of the alternator solved. And I thought, great, now I can get this thing put on. But then I go to put it on and I realized that it doesn't reach. After bolting the bottom portion on to the engine, this hole in this foot, or in this ear right here, this top one on this case, didn't reach. So took my trusty little air cutoff wheel grinder and I just slotted it, because at this point I'm fed up. It's been hurdle after hurdle, and I'm got base wars to go to, and on the 6th, so just a little over a week, and we need this alternator. So hopefully that's the last problem I have. I'm going to go try and put it on right now, and we'll see how it goes. I'll be back. Okay, so my camera overheated and I had to let it rest for a while, and it started to get dark. But so since then I've run into another issue. This connector is kind of up against here. I just said screw it, I'm just gonna leave it like that. I mean, it is kind of, it's a piece of foam, so it's not gonna chafe it or anything like that. But yeah, and I had to cut a bolt for the top mount on the alternator. But now I'm just trying to get it the rest of the way bolted on. The last 35-45 minutes just getting the shims the right thickness, and you know, getting enough washers on the bolt, and getting the right length of bolts. I've got nuts and bolts laying all around my garage. I just had to go search through them all and find the right ones. I think I might have finally got the top bolt tightened. Alright, it's tight, it's on there, and I'm pretty sure the belt's lined up. We'll find out. I really dislike putting this belt on. Pain in the butt. Ooh, you know what? Almost goofed. I have a whole nother belt. It's about 5/8 shorter than this one. So this is the belt I'm gonna try to use on it. It's like I said, just about 5/8 of an inch shorter than the factory one, Gates brand. I always buy Gates brand belts if I can. I I've just had the most success with them through the years, and in my experience they last the longest. Gonna put the belts next to each other and see. Yep, it is just a little bit shorter. Alright, let's try to get it on. Try, I say. I don't know if y'all can hear all the sirens on the camera, but I'm about a half a block from a fire station, so I hear sirens all the time. Alright, I've got the belt wrapped around all the pulleys except for the alternator. Which honestly, I should probably put it on the alternator and slide it onto the water pump pulley there. If you can get to a smooth pulley, save that one for last, because it's a lot easier to slide a belt onto a smooth pulley than a grooved pulley. Alright. I don't exactly have the right size wrench for this. So, using a crappy little crescent wrench to try and move this tensioner. This is not ideal. Definitely prefer to have the proper wrench. I work in a shop, and it just so happens that tonight all of my good tools are at the shop and I'm in my driveway. Be right back. Alright, so my tripod is garbage. I can't get this friggin' camera to stay in place for anything. So I did happen to find my big long ratchet wrenches, which are great. Way up here, get all kinds of leverage down there on that tensioner right there. So I'm not gonna be able to film it, but that's what I'm gonna do. I've got it on the alternator belt, on the alternator pulley here. And I'm going to try to slide it onto this water pump pulley here. No, you can't see anything. It keeps blurring up. The camera doesn't want to focus properly.